Giant Fathom 2 is a great bike. It's got really good parts. It looks nice, I think. It rides very smoothly and it has all the important components that are necessary on a good mid-priced mountain bike. I really like the suspension on it. The suspension it has is actually made by Giant. It's the Crest fork. I'm not sure the exact model of Crest, but it's a very good suspension. It's a very good suspension fork. It absorbs a lot of the big impacts and the smaller stuff too. It's a very smooth ride with this Crest fork. The drivetrain and like derailleur and cassette, they're all very good. I've had a couple problems with it, shifting and like shifting a little bit, but I think if I just get it tuned up and fixed, it'll be fine. Because I've had this bike for around maybe 3 or 4 months now, so it's just things that are gonna happen. The tires on this bike are the Maxxis Argent Race. These are really good tires. They're not thin like on the Trek Marlin 5 and not as thick as the Roscoe, but they're like mid-range size tires. They're good. They're very grippy and they don't slow you down too much because they don't have too much width. The plus size tires on the Roscoe are nice because they give you a little more traction, but they can get you more resistance like and friction because of the width. But yeah, it's really good. So the bike did not come with pedals, so I bought the Bontrager Lion Elite pedals. They've got metal pegs, so you've got more grip. So a few issues I've had with this bike are the grips. First of all, they're not great. They're just slide-on grips. They're not lock-on. They're nice like on my hands. They're comfortable. The only problem is they are not lock-on, so they can slide around a little, but they're pretty good about that. I'm gonna replace them, and I need to get that done. One of the other issues is with the drivetrain. There was on some of the cables, there's a little fraying. Like the wires actually coming right out of like the casing. This happened because I took the bike out on a like really bad day. Like the conditions were horrible. It was raining like crazy, and that was a really bad idea. I recommend that you do not do that. But that was when I've had a couple issues because I took it out on a rougher day. The other issue I did have was the frame scratches really easily. Even a rock hitting it will get a little scratch. But I was able to get frame protector to cover it all, so now there's no issues. There's a lot of pros to this bike. This bike is very nimble. I find since it's lighter and more compact, it can go a lot. It's a lot more responsive. The wider handlebars give you a little more like control when you're going downhill. You can hit jumps a lot easier, I would feel, because you can just control. It's got a lot more control than I feel my last bike with the Trek Marlin 5 was. The dropper on this bike is really great. It's very responsive. I've seen it on my brother's bike, which is the Roscoe 7. It's got a little play to it, or shake kind of. So on the bike, here, let me show you. So his, when you go back and forth, it goes back and forth a lot more than mine. Mine's a little, but that's just kind of how it's attached. So personally, I don't like that since it just is kind of weird feeling while you're riding. But for me, it's really nice because it doesn't do that. It's very smooth. On the Fathom, this one has a lot more travel on the dropper itself. Like, so I get a little more height and I can get a little more space as well when it's all the way down. So I like that about the Fathom. I feel that the saddle on this bike, which is the Romero Giant saddle, it's a lot more comfortable than the ones that are on the Trek bikes, on the more basic like Roscoe and Marlins. I feel it's a little more comfortable, not as stiff, but I feel the shape is good and it's not too invasive, not taking too much space, but it's also not super uncomfortable when you're trying to sit and climb and stuff. So yeah, the saddle on this is really nice. So the brakes on this bike are really nice. They're the Shimano Mineral Oil Tektro brakes. They're very responsive. I felt that they're getting slightly worn down. Like, it's not as responsive as it used to be when I first got it, but that's obvious just because of wear and tear. But it's still very good compared to, like, I used to have the Trek Marlin. That one, it wore down very quick. I had to use like all my hand. I can still do one finger and be fine. So the fork on this bike is really great. It's the Giant Crest fork. It's got 130 millimeters of travel, apparently a little less than the Roscoe. But I feel I think it looks a lot nicer because of the thicker stanchions. It looks more like a kind of downhill bike sort of look. Maybe not the same exact, but I personally like the look a lot. It's very responsive, and it's really like squish when you need it to be squish. It's got all the adjustments, so you can adjust the rebound, and you can also lock it out, but it's got incremental lockout, so if you want it like halfway locked out, you can do a couple notches and it'll be half, so it'll be a little stiffer than you originally had it when you're fully down. But it's nice, and you can fully lock out, so when you're going on the road or something, you're doing a climb, then it's fully locked out, there's no squish at all. It's really great. So I've heard and seen on a lot of YouTube comments and videos about the clicking in this fork. I personally, when I'm riding this, I do not notice the clicking. It could be happening. It's not as apparent as I've seen on other videos and stuff where it's very loud. If it is happening, it's very small and very noticeable for me, which is great. I personally don't mind that much, because as long as it's not actually doing anything to my bike, I don't care. But apparently a lot of other people have had issues with that. So for me, I've not had issues with that, but it could be there. I've heard when my brother said he's rode the bike, he said there might be slight clicking possibly, but I personally do not notice it when I'm riding, and it doesn't bother me at all. So the tires on this are the Argent Race by Maxxis. They're really nice. They're 27.5, so they're not quite as large as the Marlin's tires, which are 29ers, which I feel there are pros and cons. I see on the Marlin, you've got, since it's bigger, you can get over, it's a little easier maybe on rock gardens. You've got more travel of the tire, but on these ones, it's a lot more nimble. And since they are wider, a lot wider than the Marlin, you've got a lot more grip, which I think definitely outweighs the size of the actual tire. These are 2.60 width, which is pretty good. It's not quite the size of the Maxxis Recon, I believe, which are on the Roscoe, but they are, I would say they're sufficient for what I need. So when I bought the bike, it was tubeless ready, which is nice. So there's no tubes with it, obviously, which is a huge benefit, I feel. But so they gave me at the store these two little bottles of sealant. So I came home, I thought that was just extra. So later on, I'm seeing that there's a couple holes or stuff, and like I'm losing air maybe. So I want to see if there's an issue in like the tire. So I open it up and I find there's no sealant in the actual tires. So they sold me the bike, tires pumped up fully with no sealant in them. So I just manually put it in. I was able to just open it up, add the sealant, and close it back up. So that was just, I guess that's just the store I got it from. It probably just depends on the store. Obviously, certain stores you can just ask to set it up for you. So this bike is a 12-speed bike. It's nice because you've got a lot of climbing gears, and you can also go pretty fast. I feel it's not great for road biking. Like if you're going up against an actual road bike, it's always going to beat you on the road. You're always going to beat them on mountain biking. But I feel it is able, if you're like going on a gravel path or something, you want to go out with friends or something and just do a longer bike ride, it's nice because you've got higher gears and you've got a lot of options to go. So if you want to climb, you can go super low, and if you want to go down, you can go super high. I really like that it is one by in the front, unlike the Marlin 5, which the reason that I didn't like the 3 by on the Marlin is because when you're trying to shift, like if I was in the first on the front and like the highest on the back or lowest or whatever, there's like a lot of tension on the chain, so it's not as good for the chain, and it's also not as smooth when you're shifting. So it's really nice with the 1 by. This bike comes with a hollow bottom bracket, which is nice. So I was actually able to put a couple zip ties in the actual interior of the bottom bracket just in case. I found that pretty neat. You can store like maybe you've got a multi-tool that's the right size or something. You could put stuff in there, and I feel it definitely makes it a little lighter. Not that much, but if you really care about weight, that's another benefit. So this is a lot nicer because it's a lot better than the threaded ones, because the threaded ones have more issues down the line. For my brother, he had some issues with his bottom bracket. It is threaded. It had some play to it at first, so he got that figured out. I think he had to just tighten it down. For mine, I've had no issues with the bottom bracket at all, and it's been pretty great. The crank arms, I believe, are called Praxis Cadets. I think that's how you say it. That's how it's spelled. So yeah, these are nice. I don't really have too many comments. They're pretty durable. They've got hit a couple of times by rocks. There haven't been serious scratches, and they're really, I think they look nice. They're similar-ish to the ones that come on the Roscoe. They have a similar look. They are different, obviously, but I don't feel that has changed too much. One thing when I bought this bike, that I found very good about it was that it had a really nice loud hub, so it gives you a nice clicking sound. We can roll some footage of that, I guess. We got the ASMR clicking noises. Get it right up in the hub.
It's beautiful.
I feel it's very satisfying. Some people could find it a little annoying, but I personally like it. It's got a nice click, click, click. Yeah. So when I'm biking on like a path or something, and it's with pedestrians as well, I can use it as a bell even, because it's so loud. I can just give it like 2 cranks back, and they'll notice and they'll be like, huh, which is really nice about that. So yeah.